Yeah, hello everyone. I'm honored to introduce our next expert speaker from Eurofins. He is the Director of Cloud Engineering and IAM, Mr. Nikolaos Ballas, a technological leader with passion for technology and simple architects, design solutions, and lead technological transformation. Java enthusiastic and community member, keen problem solver with attention to detail and engineering excellency. Nicholas loved making his team grow and build simple solutions for difficult problems. Highly exposed to financial and accounting systems ranging from ERP accounting system to trading platform, leading security and cloud engineering cells for adoption of technology or of cloud technology. Strong security and technology background with a focus on cloud native technologies. His inspirational leadership has enriched the technological fraternity. He will be sharing his knowledge on security in new world. Over to you, Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me. So let me a
Yes.
minute to share my screen. Yes. Desktop. Share your screen. Share window. Share. So I believe you can see my presentation. So I will
Yes,
get you through
yes.
it. Um, let's go fast. No, that goes from here. Apologies. And here we go. So I will be speaking about security and uncertainty and how to manage risk, which I think are the foundational cornerstones of any modern security framework that it is developed within the company. And I would like also to continue the discussion from my previous fellow keynote speaker and state that there are many tools out there that can help you to use security products and do security correctly. But apparently, to be here and having this discussion with all of us, we are not doing security correctly. And I think the reports, either from European Union or from any other official member state, really showcase that there is a huge elevation of security incidents when it comes to the security world of IT. So again, a few things about me. So the name is Nikolaos Ballas. It's too Greek. We will stick to Nick. I come from Greece. I'm living in Luxembourg for the last 12 years. I decided to become an expatriate and live in the center of Europe. The two most important parts of my life are my two children, and I love technical scuba diving. As a side hustle, I tend to be passionate about software and hardware systems and how they work. I earn my living by typing keys, which I think it's a great success and evolution of the human race. And my daytime job is I'm a director of cloud engineering and EM at Eurofins. So what will be the topics that I want to bring out? The landscape has changed a lot. People change the way they work and the way they interact, and that was driven by the pandemic. So we need to reflect internally as organization and understand what needs to change so that we keep our organization secure. I want to really focus on that people, and it's part of the human nature, we try to control everything. We want to be able to control the universe. And actually, when you let go of that edge, it's actually when you can embrace the unknown and mitigate the uncertainty and create better risk and security frameworks. I've been doing security the last, I think, 10 to 12 years professionally. My background in academics was also around security and distributed systems. And if I can put everything in a nutshell, security is not a process nor a system. It's education and technology transformation. I want to indicate and show a few hints how you can understand if you are doing security correctly or not. And I would like to point out that the security models are changing. The way we are conceive security has changed dramatically with the introduction of cloud and cloud technologies, and why that's so important for the organizations. So without any further ado, I would say that the pandemic was a huge shock for our world, actually for the entire continent and for all the continents around the globe. So what happened is that people during the pandemic, they needed to find different ways of interacting, different ways of engaging their co-workers and still remain productive. This led to the need from companies to be able to find new means of communication and also new means of exposing the necessary resources for all of us, actually, to be able to work effectively and be really collaborative. So people needed to change their habits, and as human nature, we are animals of our own habits. Changing a habit is really difficult. So it was a huge effort from a lot of companies to change exactly those habits of a lot of people. I would say that the only, let's say, sector that was not heavily impacted by that was traditional industry-based production like businesses, that in order to generate revenue and create a product, they require physical presence. For example, Eurofins is a company of testing for life. So everything that goes around you that requires testing and quality to guarantee your quality of life is something that Eurofins does and excels on that. So we have two aspects there. We have the people that are supporting the labs, like myself, but we have at the end the person who sits on the labs and perform the necessary tests. That cannot be replaced. So those kind of business lines, the same also go for the automotive sector, right? They had the same challenges. What happened is people were asked to work remotely. And of course, there where the entire discussion now starts. Okay, what happens with the endpoints? How people will get access to the necessary resources to be productive? And this created a new era of how people conceive security and how people can use technology in order to achieve that. So in order to achieve that, what you need to do is you need to embrace the unknown and mitigate the uncertainty. And I will draw my knowledge and my paradigms from the army. I had to do the army. And in the army, you really learn really fast that you need to resist the urge of controlling the universe. You are part of a team and you need to learn to play with others together. Okay? And this allows you to scale. This has a consequence also on how we see security, right? Security is not about creating a dominant control over everything, because the moment you will start to do that, more and more blind spots start to appear. You need to create a collaborative environment where a lot of security conscious will be built, that security is in the center of everything. Also, again, taking the paradigm from from the previous keynote speaker, use simple and secure systems, okay, and try to avoid creating complex security architecture and frameworks that are cumbersome and really difficult to work with. I know that a lot of you in the companies, the security personnel is seen as the worst person to work with. My answer to that is, if security was easy, a lot of people would do it, but it's not. It's there for a reason. It serves a purpose, and that is called business continuity. Okay? Because at the end, when an incident, a security incident is happening, what are we trying to mitigate? That our business will continue working on the event of a security critical flaw. Okay? So then you need to elaborate on the impact of actions you will be taking in the course of either of an incident or while you are changing your security framework. It's really important to understand what the actions or the actions you should not take while you are developing that, while while you are implementing your strategy, what are the tools you need to use and so forth. And the most important part is to understand the behavior of your employees, of the people you will be collaborating on. I know this sounds counterintuitive, but you can see more and more security vendors moving into the direction of behavioral-based security. Why? As I stated, we are bounded by our own habits, so people tend to behave the same way. So the best way to extract knowledge and the best way to anticipate behavior is actually learn from people, okay? And another big fallacy I have seen many times happening is that you have to accept that you will not be able to cover 100% top notch with security the entire framework, the entire business. The worst part though you can do is having blind spots and having unknown paths on that security evolution. Because remember that security is not only about solving a security problem, but also creating a risk register where you can see what are your open flaws. This creates security indirectly by providing security awareness. And this is a huge and really important milestone for many companies when they mature in terms of security and security frameworks. That's why one of the things that I believe we have managed to do really successfully, at least in the organization I work for, and really change the mentality, is exactly achieve all the above. And this brought our security departments and our security people to be seen not as grumpy people that simply shout about processes not followed, about not 100% security done properly, but as people who will enable you to do security, which their ultimate goal is to guarantee business continuity. That being said, we need now to reflect a little bit what was the old way where people were seeing security. And this was boiling down to the traditional, let's say, an army way of thinking, which is everything needs to be a process. You have to remember, though, that processes use as input humans. There are no machines involved at the moment. Or you can automate the majority of it, but at the end, you will require a human interaction, okay? And always that's the critical flaw. If you look again through the majority of the security incidents with well-known Trojan horses or ransomwares, the majority of the attacks are not sophisticated technological attacks, but the majority of the attacks, they were around social engineering. People were fooled to believe A instead of B, and they were opening doors to hackers. Also, the majority of the attacks we have seen in the last 5 years in the security industry are not highly technical, sophisticated incidents, right? All the problems are really simple. Like, I will take the paradigm of the Log4j that happened a few weeks back, and people are still recovering from it. If you drill into the details, you will see that the technology behind it is rather simple. Okay? Again, what is the flaw? It's the human factor. It's how people tend to develop and how people tend to deliver code. For example, a lot of successful security incidents relate around to what is called supply chain attack. For example, the incident that happened to one big vendor a few months back. Okay? And on top of that, if you go to any traditional security conventions nowadays, they will all tell you, don't try to hack protocols, don't try to reverse engineer processes or systems. Simply try to use unused accounts, which are never expired, and try to find systems that have by default the default configuration and passwords. There was a study lately that showcases that the majority of the enterprise for non-production systems that are either exposed to internet or behind the reverse proxy, for configuration and passwords, they reflect back to standard configurations. This is such a huge flaw, which can be so easily mitigated. That's why I stated, try to solve and create architectures that are simple. For example, a security guideline that states, when we deploy a security tool or any other tool or any software or hardware system we're deploying in our infrastructure, we revert from the default passwords and configuration. This will easily limit 40% of your attack surface. That being said, security done wrongly, and this ties back to the discussion I always mention, that many security departments have this reputation of being cumbersome. Okay, why is that? We create a lot of cumbersome security rules that are really difficult to implement, and they sacrifice business effectiveness. What is the natural reaction of people to that? They will try to bypass those security rules by raising exceptions. What you have at the end, few standards that no one follows, and 1,000 tons of exceptions that you need to comply with so that business can run. How you can now fix that? You can fix that in certain ways. Either you disconnect all your systems from internet and you have people going with USB sticks in and out inputting data. We can all agree that's not doable and it's not achievable in the era of 2022. Also, a lot of security standards and security frameworks in companies are focusing on processes and not on behavior. Typical example, phishing attacks. Phishing attacks are not highly technical attacks, but they exploit the human nature, nothing else. So another big problem I have seen in my experience in the past is, and that also targets not business or people working in a business, but the security departments themselves. We try to do military grade security. And on the other hand, what we achieve is we are moving people away from security, and there is no security at the end. Okay? So between military grade security and no security, there is a huge gap of improvement we can do. And we can be far, far better with a much more better security posture for our organization. And the last but not least, I have heard it over and over many, many times. The business decides not to invest on security and actually building the correct workforce around security, because it's an investment that requires a lot of money. How you can counterattack that, or what leads to that first? That leads to that when we have unrealistic security strategies. And what I mean by that, if you believe that any company will spend the same amount of money to what, for example, any security in the army spends, then we are not in contact with reality, right? Like, this is really expensive. And on the other hand, we present really beautiful PowerPoint presentations like the one I have here, and then we have security incidents. And what is the consequence of that? People are debating. So I invested on security, but I had a security incident. Am I the only one pointing out the obvious, that then maybe our security model is not mature enough? Did we invest correctly? Did we have the right people? We didn't have the right people, but what did go wrong? Okay. This part of my discussion or of my presentation goes around the behavior of security and how security needs to be approached. Because at the end, I believe security is not it's not a technological problem. The tools and means to do proper security is there. Okay. The problem we have, either as a developer or as a user of a system or as business, is we don't have the right mindset and the right behavior around security. To give you a typical example, to whom you would trust. So I have 2 children. Do I trust my children to everyone? No, they are the most precious thing of my life. So I trust them in certain people and to school. And someone will debate, yes, but you trust it in school. Yes, but the school as an organization has the necessary processes around it to guarantee that my children will be safe. Okay? And that's what I want to change. Now a little bit and look into the details of technology. So how companies used to work up until now. So if you take any traditional company that has its own data center or builds things on the cloud, and now everyone is willing to work remote, what do? Let's set up VPNs, let people connect over the VPN to authenticate and authorize. Once you are inside, most of the times the security is performed on a time basis manner. So if you are, let's say if your TTL finished, then someone will ask you to authenticate and authorize for continue working inside that stronghold castle called the infrastructure of the company in which you want to operate. And that by definition has a flaw. And what is that flaw? Once an attacker manages to bypass that VPN authentication policy, he's inside your castle, okay, without anyone to be able to control his identity and his access to system if that TTL goes away. Now, most of the times, I think most of you have faced the problem like we should not we should not have TTLs of less than an hour because then it does not become good for business because people need to re-enter passwords and they complain and so forth. And giving to an attacker 1 hour is like giving to a god, to any god you might believe in. I don't want to create any discrimination in religion. Gods create worlds in a matter of hours. So imagine what an attacker can do in the entirety of your infrastructure in 1 hour. In order to move forward and actually to solve those kind of problems, there were new evolutions in security, right? The security world evolved a lot, I think, the last 15 years. And one of the new kids on the block is called Zero Trust. In my humble opinion, that's the best thing that happened to security. Zero Trust, again, describes a security model. Zero Trust is not an architecture principle for security. It's not a framework, but is a trust security model. And that needs to be understood really well, because Zero Trust is not about what technology you are using, but how you are behaving around the devices you own, about the identities you own, about the data you own, about your applications, your network, and your infrastructure. That's what Zero Trust model embraces. Okay, if we take the paradigm of the castle, to give the analogy to what a good adoption of a Zero Trust security model is, imagine now that when you arrive in the castle, you are invited in the castle because the king is marrying the princess. Okay, so you arrive at the door, so there's no one there in the door, but you say, okay, my name is Nick, and I'm entitled of entering this castle. Then someone will pop up, will manifest, and will tell you, so you are making these claims? Yes, let me validate. And then you will enter inside the castle. Once you enter in the castle, there is nothing there. There's an empty void. It's like you are in the Sahara Desert. And then you are making then one claim. I have a seat where I can sit down and watch the ceremony of the princess getting married. And someone will appear. So our famous authority, or the IDP, which challenges you and tells you, okay, can you give me the ticket that actually you have a seat? Yes. Here is my ticket. Yes, you are entitled of your seat. And then suddenly the entire groom, princess, the entire event will manifest. Okay. Now, as you can see, what Zero Trust model brings into the picture is that the perimeter of your security is no longer the perimeter only of your infrastructure, of your network, of your device, or your application, but the identity of the user who is trying to access those resources. Okay? In order, though, to be able to achieve that, you need to deploy tools that are highly automated, so they require really few interactions with humans, because we want to eliminate the error factor, which is called human. Okay? And also it allows you for quick recovery. That needs to be in the center of new security architecture and, of course, security frameworks and strategies. Okay, so given that, I will say that there are tools. There is a variety of tools, like as the former keynote speaker pointed out, there are tools that have processes of how you onboard someone, how you define his identity. Then there are several products that are out in the market that can implement conditional access policies. And something that I would like to point out to everyone, try to avoid not the vendor lock-in, but try to put a lot of vendors in the picture, because there are vendors that are good they are extremely good, for example, in Internet of Things, but they are bad in something else. So try to create an ecosystem of tools that help you to implement your zero trust security model, because this also gives you resilience in case one vendor has a problem. Okay, then the attack surface you will have in your organization will be really smaller than relying only to one vendor. Okay, that being said, I will continue. So we will speak now about security in the era of the cloud. And what is the era of the cloud? The era of the cloud is and passes through zero trust. Okay, zero trust is a journey, it's not a tool. There are tools that can help you in the zero trust journey, but above and foremost is an IT transformation trip. For me, there are a lot of papers you can find out there in the market on what zero trust is and how the security model evolves, what are the architectures it supports. But I think my fellow colleagues in Microsoft, they have an amazing position paper on why the zero trust security model and journey starts most of the times around the identity. Another key point to take away here is, as we are moving to more and more remote working, to more and more bring your own device on board it and so forth, we need, as security organizations, to embrace federation. And what I mean by that, try not to rely on protocols that make the assumption that the device is fully controlled and managed. We know from security standpoint of view, the more assumptions we do around security and how an endpoint behaves, the more problems we will have in the future. Also try to use great open standards that are governed by open source bodies like the Internet Engineering Task Force. And without any further view, the two foundations, at least, of what I'm proposing and what I'm evangelizing in the organization I'm leading is Auth 2.0 and Scheme. Here I will be a little bit more descriptive and I will go into the details. Auth has two mechanisms. It has the authentication mechanism, which can be your OpenID Connect or your SAML 2.0 or the evolution of those protocols. SAML is about to be updated. And then look at the grant flows in Auth flow that will allow you then to implement the role-based access control or the attribute-based access control or your claim-based access control, as also pointed in the previous talk. One protocol that I don't know why it is not advertised that much is called Scheme. Scheme is an extreme powerful protocol that allows you the provisioning of identities across different domains, guaranteeing that you will guarantee the identity, right? It is an internet-friendly protocol, so it speaks REST and it can be secured. Those protocols working together solve the majority of your, let's say, authentication authorization problems. I will take a side note here to indicate and say, I will, if I was a security architect now, and that's something I always evangelize, try also to create clusters of users. And we know that in many companies, we always, as security, we see people in a unified way. We expect that all people are of a certain kind of profile. And that creates many times many problems because, again, we are making assumptions. Okay, there are tools like you could have a PIM PAM solution that will allow people to elevate their privileges in case they wanted to do something. Okay, so these tools all together are the arsenal that you need to build around your zero trust security model. here I have to be again explicit. The zero trust security model does not focus on those tools. The security model called zero trust has one mantra: trust nothing, authenticate and authorize every access. That's why the pillars are the pillars we showcased in the previous presentation. And what we are stating, each of those pillars are services that someone can connect, okay? And we want always to authenticate and authorize. In the discussion, is it an easy trip? The answer is no. That's why you need to invest to the right people, to educate people, to train people, so that they will become your experts inside your organization that will evangelize security properly. Again, the problem I have seen several times in the past is systems. Companies are doing huge investment in systems, but you should never forget, systems are created by developers and have flaws. Again, why? Developers are humans. And unfortunately or not, it might sound inhuman what I will say, we are subject to errors. And that gives the uniqueness we have as a race, right? But as a security person, you need to create the necessary architecture to tackle that. So where we go next? What I want you to take away from here? It's evident that a lot of companies are migrating to the cloud and trying to tackle security models that were available in the traditional data center world to the cloud, with people having now remote access, is not a smart move. Neither it will ever work. To give you an example, Microsoft in the past has developed a protocol called Kerberos. Kerberos is an amazing protocol if you follow the data-centric based design, where you consider that all your servers, all your machines are inside your data center, you control the access to the data center, and you allow those devices to be trusted once they are on your domain. Of course, even Kerberos itself, in the design itself, it has a ticketing granting service, where when a device wants to be authenticated and authorized, needs to go there, present a ticket, be authenticated and authorized, and then it receives back a ticket with authentication and time to leave. These kind of protocols, though, are not scalable in the cloud, because you are taking away the parameter of the physical device. I know that there will be a lot of people that will tell you, but I can replay my data center in the cloud. I will tell you again from not personal experience, but from professional experience, that lift and shift strategies that move a data center, a physical data center, to the cloud by migrating one by one the blade servers to the cloud, okay, following an infrastructure as a service first approach, they tend to have the two following problems. The first problem is they're difficult to scale and manage. So then the question that gets asked really often is, okay, what do I win by using cloud if I didn't automate, if I didn't improve my SLA, if I didn't improve my RPOs and RTOs, which are really critical KPIs to measure once you do a huge investment. And the second part, hidden cost. It looks really elegant. We can debate on that, but it looks really easy, right? Like, I will take my payloads and move them to VMs in the cloud. I can even start an LDAP there, put all the resources inside there. I can create domain controllers in VMs and do all those things. And suddenly, at the end of the month, you receive a bill from any of the standard well-known cloud service providers. And when you will compare your costs from what you had on your data center and what it costs you in the cloud becomes extremely expensive. I will challenge everyone, go and look how much it costs you to run in your own data center a blade server, and how much it costs to have a dedicated machine, VM, on any cloud provider with the same requirements. You will find that in certain occasions and in certain payloads, the cost on the cloud is far, far greater. Okay? I will keep the last 10 minutes. So thank you for listening to me. Thank you for giving time of your life today to listen a guy who has his own ideas around security. The only thing I will advise is jump right on. Don't wait. There are a lot of things you will lose if you decide not to do security properly, and if you don't decide to evolve your security model and your security architecture. That being said, I will open now the discussion for Q&A.
Hey, thank you for...
Yes, zero trust.
Yeah.
There is a question. I will try to tackle it. Yes, zero
Yes,
trust is a long-term security solution, Shivam. I think if I take the position of a strategic position in IT, it should be a strategic position that your organization will need to do and invest on in order to achieve higher security posture.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much for such a wonderful presentation and knowing how important the security is in this new world. And so we will log off from here and start our next session. See you there. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Have a great continuation of the event. Bye-bye.